Good evening. Let us begin with what may sound like a paradox, but is in fact the doorway. Healing is instant, yet it often appears to take time. I do not mean instant as a headline, nor as a contest in speed. I mean instant in the only way that matters, realization. Be still and know that I am God. In that still knowing, there is no interval. In the twinkling of an eye, a standpoint shifts, and what seemed to be law, cause, or weight dissolves as mist before the sun. Do you see? Do you follow that? Now, this is not a promise of sensation. This is not to measure God by the clock or by the thermometer. Instant does not mean that the body dances to our timing or that conditions rearrange themselves to applaud our word. Instant means the moment consciousness awakens from a false assumption, separation, effort, two powers, and rests where God already is God. I and the Father are one. The oneness is never delayed. Only our seeing of it is postponed by the standpoint we have taken. Our governing premise must be clear at the outset. We are not here to move God, instruct God, persuade God, or attract God. We are learning to stand where God's action is already the fact. Omnipresence is not waiting outside your door. Omnipotence is not idling until you find the right phrase. Omniscience is not consulting your diagnosis. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. If all that the Father has is already yours, then what stands between you and its appearing? Not God, not distance in space, not distance in time, only a standpoint that imagines distance, and distance always looks like time. I will help you. That is my word to you. Not with talk, not with clever sayings, but by standing in consciousness where the work is done and inviting you to join me there. You are not here to be entertained. I am not here to perform. We are here to locate the precise point at which you, without blame, without self-accusation, began to work with time instead of with truth. You will know it by the signs, strain, waiting, bargaining, rehearsing words to improve a feeling. Words are auxiliaries at best. Presence heals. Consciousness, realized, is the Christ action. Do you see? Let this be our first correction. The delay is rarely in God. It is almost always in the standpoint from which we approach the problem. If I begin with God and me, I have created two, and with two comes negotiation. If I begin with God and this condition, I have formed opponents and set a battlefield. Where there are two, there is travel. Where there is travel, there is time. But if I begin with God as the invisible, appearing as the visible individual, and God as the present fact of harmony being what it is, notwithstanding appearances, then the need of time collapses. The mind may still report a process, but realization knows no procedure. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. That is not future tense. Let us be very gentle and very firm. You are not to fight appearances, nor are you to glorify them by making them projects for God. Resist not evil. The resistance itself is an admission of a second power. Drop it. Rest a moment in what is already true. Life is. Love is. Law is. The kingdom is at hand. When we begin there, the sense of delay loosens because we have ceased traveling from here to there. We are abiding in the there that is here. So tonight, as we set our feet on this path, mark this in your heart. The instant of healing is the instant of realization. Not the instant of improved vocabulary, not the instant of heightened mood, but the still instant in which consciousness stops reaching outward and stands within. If you can accept that, even as a seed, you have accepted the ease of God, you will find, step by step, that it is never time that heals, it is God realized. And that realization, when it comes as now. Do you see? Do you follow that? I will help you. Now let us be exact about what we mean by healing, because unless we agree here, we will measure the wrong thing and congratulate ourselves on a mood while the patient still suffers. Healing is fruitage. By their fruits ye shall know them. Fruitage is harmony made evident, a body at peace, a mind unafraid, a home where gentleness replaces accusation, supply that appears when and where it is needed without strain, relationships in which forgiveness is not a performance but a fact, a fearlessness that abides through storm and through sunshine. Fruitage is not the tingling in your hands. It is the bills paid without anxiety and the diagnosis that no longer rules your nights. Fruitage is not the tear in the eye during a beautiful prayer. It is the cessation of torment and the emergence of order. Do you see? If the outer tree bears apples, you do not need a lecture about botany to know its nature. So, with healing, faith without works is dead. If there is no work, no fruit, you may have had an inspiration, but not realization. This is a safety guardrail I must establish with you because it prevents harm. Never trivialize suffering with glittering phrases. Words are only auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. I have been in rooms where, while a man sat trembling at the edge of his breath, someone announced, "There are no accidents in divine mind," or "It's all illusion," as if a slogan could bear the weight of anguish. It cannot. It should not. That is using truth as a weapon. And truth so used is not truth in practice, it becomes cruelty. If you are tempted to speak like that, be still. Let your words be few. Better to sit silently and let presence say, "I will help you," than to fill the air with a letter that kills. The letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. Do you follow that? Comfort is not the same as realization. Comfort may soothe the surface. Realization changes the basis of experience. Comfort can warm an emotion. Realization dissolves the hypnotic premise that produced the distress. That is why some prayers feel very good and yet do not heal. They rearrange the furniture of feeling while leaving the house built upon sand. Realization rebuilds upon rock, upon is. When the awareness of God as in God is dawns, the sense of time and opposition loosens, and the outward evidence adjusts, sometimes quietly, sometimes suddenly. Peace, be still. When the Christ speaks within, the storm does not receive eloquence. It receives authority. Therefore, our measure in this work is never how uplifted did I feel or how beautifully did I declare truth. Our measure is fruitage. Are the problems yielding? Are the fears diminishing? Are the habits losing their hypnotic spell? Is harmony in whatever corner of life called for it becoming the simple, natural atmosphere? If yes, then continue. If not, you may be in an emotional jag, a pleasant intoxication with words. Drop it. Return to the stillness in which spirit is the actor and you are the witness. And because I would not leave you with exhortation only, I will give you a clear purpose for our time together. We will use a diagnostic checklist, not to burden you with technique, but to help you locate precisely where the standpoint has slipped. 4 items only: effort, words, personalization, and the hidden belief in 2 powers. In each of these, The human mind can substitute travel for realization. Strain in place of presence, talk instead of silence, person in place of hypnotism, God plus something in place of God is. We will look at each of these until you can recognize, at the moment of need, what to drop and where to stand. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. That sentence is our definition and our guardrail. It leaves no room for bargaining, for shame, for theatrical praying. It speaks identity, not prognosis. It announces, is not, will be. When you hear it within, when you consent to it within, fruitage follows in ways large and small, immediate and unfolding, but always real. For perfect love casteth out fear, and where fear is gone, healing is not a project, it is the evidence. By your life experience, by the fruitage you will know. Do you see? I will help you. The infinite way is built around a few words, and the first of these words is as God appearing as individual being, God the invisible appearing as Son, as the visible. I and the Father are one. Do not file that as poetry. It is identity. It is not a figure of speech. It is the truth of being. He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. Do you see? The Master was not offering us a riddle. He was lifting the curtain from the only fact that heals. There are not two God and a man needing God. There is the one, seen and unseen, source and appearing. The moment you conceive of God and you have introduced distance. Distance has only one language, time. From that standpoint, prayer becomes travel. Come, God, help God, fix me, God. And because a journey has been imagined, a journey must be undergone. But if you begin where reality begins, with God manifest as individual being, there is nowhere to go. There is no span to close. There is only recognition. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine, ever with, already thine. No schedule is hidden inside already. No delay is folded inside ever. Do you follow that? Now listen closely, because error often hides in piety. This is not a charter for personal ego to pronounce itself divine. The human eye, the proud, the frightened, the ambitious, is not being enthroned. Quite the opposite. The personal sense is surrendered, and in its place the Christ identity is discerned. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. The as we are speaking of is not a human becoming God, but God being God as the transparency called you. The glass does not boast of the sun that shines through it. It yields. It is the yielding that ends time. For in yielding there is no one left to travel. If you will test this, test it simply. When a call for help comes, I do not set about hauling God across a distance. I do not look at a person, a body, a history, or a diagnosis. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. I become still and know, God appearing as this very one. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. I do not say it as a charm. I hear it. I consent to it. And in that consent, the sense of separation dies back like a shadow when the lamp is turned on. The shadow never required gradual removal. It required the light. So with fear, so with pain. Their strength was borrowed from the belief in two God, and something withdraw the belief, and the appearance loses its premise. When you walk through your day, practice as quietly. Look back of the eye and behold the presence. That is the life of your neighbor, your child, the stranger, the so-called enemy. Do not personalize good and do not personalize evil. See God the invisible, appearing as Son the visible, not as mortal qualities, those are the garments of habit, but as life, as intelligence, as love that cannot be absent from its own manifestation. I will help you. Let each contact become a place of acknowledgement. Not God to you, but God as you. Not God to that clerk, but God as that clerk. Not God to that patient, but God as that patient. This is not pantheism. It is recognition that the only law, life, and substance are spirit, and spirit alone constitutes identity. Notice what happens to time when you do this. The subtle waiting evaporates. The bargaining winds down. You are no longer postponing reality until a condition gives permission. Reality is appearing as. The body will report what it must report until the hypnotic premise is broken. But realization does not wait for a report to be true. Realization abides as truth and lets the report amend itself. Before Abraham was, I am. The was is the human chronology. The I am is the timeless fact. Rest there. If you find yourself pleading, you have slipped into two, drop it. If you find yourself promising God something in exchange for help, you have manufactured a distance to cross, drop it. Return to the seeing that says without words, Thou seest me, thou seest the Father, for I and the Father are one. In that one there is no between, therefore there is no when. Fruitage will tell you you are right. Fear thins, decisions simplify. The body quiets. Supply appears without theatrics. The instant is not on the clock. It is in consciousness. Stand in as, and the clock becomes your servant, not your ruler. Do you see? Now, the second word is simple, uncompromising, present. Harmony is, life is, love is, peace is, abundance is, omnipresence is, I am. This is not a chant to persuade reality. It is reality's own announcement heard in quietness. The kingdom of God is within you. Not will be, is. Now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. Not later, not after we've succeeded at a technique. Is. Do you see the nature of this? You are not creating harmony. You are realizing what is. You do not make 2 times 2 become 4. You do not pray yourself into arithmetic. You recognize it as 4. If agitation stands up in the room and insists, but look 3, perhaps 5, you do not strain. You do not wrestle with the chalkboard. You stand in the fact and watch the error melt by its own lack of premise. So with healing, we are not changing matter. We are not pushing around shadows. We are realizing isness, life already being itself, love already filling all space, spirit being the only law, the only substance, the only cause. I am that I am, present being, not a promise. Now observe how time creeps back when we lose this standpoint. We say, I'm working toward my healing. I think I'm getting closer. It's improving. The very grammar betrays a consent to absence now. The mind has accepted distance and so invents a journey. It sounds pious. It sounds patient, but it is bargaining with a dream. When you make health a goal to attain, you quietly enthrone its opposite as real at this moment, and you ask God to displace it. With 2 powers on your stage, a campaign must be waged and a calendar must be watched. Drop it. Be still and know that I am God. Not be busy and hope. Know is. Do not misunderstand me. This is not indifference to appearances. It is sovereignty over them. The clouds may pass. The sun is. A rope in the dusk may look like a snake. The light is. When the light appears, the snake does not slither away in stages. It never was. In realization, the report may adjust gradually or swiftly, but your standpoint is not incremental. Is whole. Is unmixed. Is now, before Abraham was, I am. The was is the human timeline. The I am is the fact that dissolves the need for a timeline in consciousness. How then do we work? Not by straining the mind to hold a position. Strain is always a confession of absence, but by yielding to what is until it becomes the atmosphere of thought. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. You may begin with words as a primer. Life is. Love is. Peace is. God is. And I am the transparency for that. But let the words fall back into silence, and let silence announce itself. The ear turns within. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear it about the one before you. Hear it about the one you call you. Consent to it. It does not require your effort. It asks only your non-resistance. Practice it simply, constantly, without drama. On waking is. At the first glimpse of the day's tasks is. When a bill appears, supply is. When a pain speaks, life is. When you look into the face of a neighbor, Christ is. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Ever with. All that I have, as the habit of postponement knocks. Perhaps later, when I feel better, when I can concentrate, answer gently. Now. Not as a force, not as a dare, but as a yielding. The vine does not strain to fill the branch. The branch abides. I am the vine, ye are the branches. Abide is. Do you follow that? When consciousness rests in is, the need for time collapses because no one is left to manufacture a result. You are not producing harmony. You are witnessing it. You are not chasing God. You are consenting to omnipresence, and fruitage will verify your consent. Fear ebbs without argument. Decisions untangle. The body reports peace without theatrics. The outer scene, like a mirror, aligns with the light before it. If it does not, check the standpoint, not the clock. Return to isness. Live there. I will help you. Stand still a moment longer than is comfortable, until is all that remains. Then watch how quickly later loses its power to frighten you, and how naturally now reveals itself as the only time healing ever knew. Do you see? Now let us uncover why it looks slow. The human mind tries to travel. It draws a map. Here is sickness, there is health. Here is lack, there is supply. Here is fear, there is peace. Then it invents a road between the two and names the road time. With a map in hand, it begins to march. Prayer becomes steps, meditation becomes mileage, and each day is checked for how far we have come. But the kingdom is not across town. The kingdom of God is within you. Do you see? When you accept a here and a there in consciousness, you have accepted distance. And the moment you accept distance, you must have time to traverse it. Time appears whenever we accept the premise of distance between what is true and what seems true. This is the source of that weary feeling of almost. I'm almost healed. It's getting better. I'm making progress. The grammar betrays the standpoint. Progress toward what already is a contradiction. 2 times 2 is 4 now. You do not journey from 3.5 to 4 with sufficient affirmation. You simply recognize 4. When you agree to travel, you are bargaining with a mirage. It is like looking down a long set of streetcar tracks and believing they meet in the distance. The eyes report convergence. The mind begins to plan how to arrive at the meeting place. But there is no meeting place. There never was. The appearance of distance is hypnotism. The arm of flesh, nothingness. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Here is another device by which slowness is manufactured. The hidden bargain. I will be spiritual if you will give me a result. I will do my meditation if the pain eases. I will practice forgiveness if supply appears. Can you feel the subtle idolatry? Attention is fixed on the appearance, and God is reduced to a means. That is 2 powers. God and this condition. God and this fear. The moment you put an if between you and truth, you make a contract with a shadow. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. First means first, not after the condition smiles at you. Drop the bargain. Take no thought for your life. Not because life is unimportant, but because life already is. Your taking of thought is the travel. Understand this. The body is not the starting point. Consciousness is the starting point. It is the spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. The body is an instrument reporting to the standpoint of awareness. If you begin with the body, you must travel, measuring, checking, fearing, hoping, because you have chosen effect as cause. If you begin in consciousness, God as God is, you begin at home. You stand where the light is on, and you let the rope be seen as rope. The snake never needed minutes to leave. It never was. In realization, the report amends itself naturally, sometimes swiftly, sometimes gradually. But your work is not in the amendment. Your work is in the abiding. Let me offer you a gentle self-check, not to accuse, but to reveal. If you are watching the clock during your treatment, how long have I sat? How long until relief you are traveling? If you are measuring daily progress like a merchant with a ledger, yesterday a little better, today a little worse, you are traveling. If you find yourself saying inwardly, if this lifts, I will pray more. I will keep my peace. I will trust. You are traveling. If you are refining words to get a better result, you are traveling. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. Traveling is always a confession of a distance imagined and a power ascribed to appearance. What is the correction? Simple, uncompromising, kind. Stop walking. Be still and know that I am God. Not will be, I am. Return to the standpoint. God appearing as the only identity present. God is the only law, life, cause, and activity. Whisper if you must, then be silent. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Consent to it about the one you are tempted to improve. Consent to it about the one you call you. Now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. Now is not a dare. It is the nature of reality. And when the mind tugs at your sleeve with its map here to there, answer it with presence. Not by arguing, not by straining, but by refusing to step onto the road that goes nowhere. Drop the bargain. Drop the clock. Drop the ledger. Stand where oneness is the only fact. In that stillness, the sense of time thins because no traveler remains to need it. Fruitage will tell you you are right. Fear loses pressure. Decisions grow simple. The body grows quiet. Provision appears without theatrics. If not, check the standpoint, not the schedule. I will help you. Do you see? Do you follow that? Now, the first item on your checklist, effort. Not diligence, effort. Not discipline, strain. Do you see the distinction? Discipline prepares receptivity. Strain tries to force an outcome. Discipline is the quiet decision to present oneself at the altar of silence daily, to prime the pump with a few true recognitions and then to listen. Strain is the mind's fist closing tight around a result. It is the unspoken declaration. Truth is not present. I must bring it. That is why effort delays healing. Strain is a confession of absence. Realization is a recognition of presence. You can detect this instantly if you are honest with yourself. If your treatment feels like wrestling, pushing thoughts around the room, batting away fear with counterphrases, timing your breath as if God were a technique, you are fighting a phantom. The phantom has many costumes: pain, prognosis, debt, memory, guilt. But the actor behind the mask is always the same impersonal hypnotism, the arm of flesh, nothingness. You cannot pin a ghost to the mat. Every thrust of mental force dignifies the ghost with a little more seeming substance and moves you deeper into the make-believe arena of two powers. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Do you follow that? Effort says, I am far and God is near if I work hard enough. Realization says, I and the Father are one. Effort says, if I say it longer, stronger, more beautifully, I will arrive. Realization rests in is now. Effort turns prayer into a project plan. Realization is beholding. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still means stop manufacturing. The more you pump the bellows of will, the more smoke you make. The more smoke, the less light appears to your sight. Light is present. Smoke only obscures your seeing. Drop the bellows. I have sat with students who were red in the face with sincerity, pouring torrents of truth statements over a condition. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. If you can feel the veins of the forehead, if you can hear the clock of your anxiety ticking behind the prayer, stop. Every ounce of strain is bearing witness to a lie, that God needs you to succeed at praying before God can be God. It is the Spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. Flesh here is not skin. It is human might, mental push, emotional thunder. The letter killeth. The Spirit giveth life. Let your test be simple. Is there effort? Is there pressure in the chest? Is there bargaining in the background? If this lifts, I'll meditate more. Then you have left the standpoint and stepped onto the road that goes nowhere. Return. How? By the shortest path. Recognition. One presence. One power. One activity. One law. God appearing as individual, being here God is. Whisper it if you must. Then be still. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear it about the one in need. Hear it about the one you call you. Then stop working the mind like a machine. Machines produce heat. Spirit reveals light. You may say, but if I do not work, nothing will happen. That is the two-power belief speaking, the old hypnotism that equates stillness with neglect. Hear the Master. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Labor and heavy ladenness are the signature of effort. Rest is not passivity. Rest is God's activity felt without friction. In rest, fear loosens its jaw. In rest, decisions clarify without argument. In rest, the body reports peace as a natural language. Fruitage tells you the difference. So make this your discipline. Present yourself to silence, prime the pump with a few true recognitions, and then relinquish the handle. Do not count the minutes. Do not watch the body. Do not rehearse phrases to club fear. Be still and know that I am God. Not will be, I am. If agitation persists, do not attack it. Unsee its person, its law, its time. Snake in the rope, turn on the light. The light is the simple living awareness of one. Stay 1 second longer than the mind prefers. That extra second is not effort, it is surrender. And you will find that what strain could not budge, realization dissolves without a sound. I will help you. Do you see? Now the second item, words. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. Do you see how quick the mind is to seize upon language to mask its fear or to prove its knowledge? A torrent of truth statements can be nothing more than a blanket thrown over panic. It warms nothing and often suffocates the very breath of spirit. The letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. If we have learned anything, we have learned this. Words do not heal. Consciousness heals. Words at best point toward it and at worst obstruct it. I must correct a habit that does harm. Do not speak at the patient. Do not take the sword of truth and swing it over the head of one in pain. Slogans hurled across a sickbed. It's only an illusion. There are no accidents in divine mind. You are perfect now. Maybe the mind's way of fleeing its own discomfort, or its way of impressing the room with spirituality. But pain does not yield to speeches. Fear hardens under rebuke. Shame grows when truth is used as blame. A bruised reed shall he not break, and the smoking flax shall he not quench. If you would help, be gentle, sparse with language, rich with presence. My conversation in such moments is usually limited to, I will help you, not because I lack truth to say, but because truth does not travel well as noise. Let your words be few. Then inwardly I stand in the realization, not God and this person, God appearing as this very being, not a future result, is, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. I do not declare it to them as if to correct their beliefs. I hear it within as the announcement of what is so, and I consent to it. That consent is the treatment. It is not the sentence. It is the silence in which the sentence is heard, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. You may ask, how shall I know when my words are help and when they are interference? Let there be a simple test. If more words produce more agitation, if the patient stiffens, if the atmosphere tightens, if your own heartbeat quickens, reduce the words and increase the inner stillness. If what you say returns you to yourself with a flourish, there, I said it rightly. I gave the highest truth suspect display. Stop, turn within. If a brief assurance calms, if the shoulders drop, if the breath loosens, if you feel the quieting presence take the room, then words have served and may now be laid down. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Let that be your measure. A story. to anchor this. I was called to a room where a mother sat at the edge of her child's fever. A well-meaning friend stood there reciting a fine liturgy of truths, higher than the ceiling, faster than anyone could breathe. The mother's hands were trembling harder with every noble phrase. I asked our friend to sit, and we were quiet. No denunciation, no rebuttal, just quiet. In the hush, the inner word declared itself. This is my beloved son. I heard it not as a hope, but as is. The mother began to weep. The pressure left the room. The child's breath steadied. Fruitage, not eloquence. Consider Peter's confession. Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And the Master answered, Flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Speech did not reveal Christ. Revelation did. So with every healing, you may prime the pump with a word or two. God is. I rest in is. I and the Father are one, but then let the Father reveal. Words cannot open heaven. Heaven opens words. Do you follow that? And please do not let anyone use truth to scold you in an hour of need. I resent it very much if they start voicing truth to me when I am suffering. I presume you do too. Presence is the balm, not platitude. If you are the one called to help, stand by in consciousness. Say little, love much. If you must speak, let it be kindness. I will help you. Then keep your appointment with silence. There the Christ performs the work. There fear loosens without argument. There the strain of speech gives way to the authority that says within, peace, be still. And peace is not because we said it well, but because we did not stand in the way. Do you see? Now, the third item, personalization. This is one of the most subtle delays. The human mind loves persons and conditions. It must have a face to fear, a diagnosis to measure, a history to remember. But error is not a person. Error is not a condition. Error is not a law. Error is a suggestion, a mesmerism, an arm of flesh, nothingness. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, meaning, of course, against suggestion, not against people. Do you follow that? Consider the snake in the rope. In the dusk, you startle. The heart races. The body contracts. But there is no snake. There is a rope. Your fear was real to your senses, but it had no object in reality. Or the non-existent white poodle some of you have heard me describe, reported with great sincerity in a room where there was no dog. The eyes swore to it. The tongue testified. The nerves confirmed. But where was the dog? In suggestion. In a picture without substance. Turn on the light and there is nothing to push away. There is only the vanishing of a picture that never had law, life, or cause. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Now here is your training move. On any call for help, give not a thought to the person. Give not a thought to the condition. Drop it. Do not say, his cancer, her temper, my lack. Each pronoun is glue. Each label feeds the picture with a little borrowed life and writes time into the script. When the telephone rings, when the email comes, when the thought of your own body speaks loudly, do not climb into the picture to fix it. Recognize only the false claim presenting itself. A universal hypnotic suggestion that there is a life, law, or substance apart from God. Get thee behind me, Satan. The Master did not rebuke Peter as a person. He addressed the suggestion as suggestion and dismissed it. I know your compassion protests, but I must care about the person. I must face the condition. Listen closely. You will be of greater help. You will love more purely when you withdraw your consent from the picture. The master met a man blind from birth. The disciples personalized it at once. Master, who did sin, this man or his parents? But he refused the bait of person and cause. Neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest. Do you see? Depersonalization is not cold. It is the only warmth that heals. It removes blame, fear, pity, resentment, the emotional charge that feeds the suggestion. Without charge, the picture cannot fasten in consciousness. Without fastening, it cannot seem to require time. Let me describe it as electricity. Personalization is a plug. Each time you say my pain, his stubbornness, their cruelty, you push the prongs into the socket and light up the illusion. Pull the plug, remove person, condition, law, and the circuit goes dead. The appearance, having no current, dims of itself. You have not conquered a second power. You have recognized there is none. The carnal mind is enmity against God, not a person's mind, but the impersonal belief in otherness. When you stop making the belief its teeth fall out, it cannot bite, it cannot hold, a story will serve. A man called in terror about a relative with a frightening label. The temptation was to ask for charts and dates, to measure progress and prepare sophisticated words. But words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. I drop the name, drop the label, drop the timeline. I stood in the one fact, God appearing as individual being is. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Not about a sick person to be improved, about the only identity there is. In that quiet, the charge drained. Within the hour, the household reported a hush had come over the room. The panicked breathing steadied. The family ceased arguing. Fruitage, not because I battled a condition, but because I refused to make a condition a someone. Practice this with a so-called difficult person in your day. The mind says, that man is impossible. Drop it. Look back of the eye and behold the Christ of God. Not God in that temperament. God as the only identity there. Refuse the bait of memory. He always, she never, those are timelines of a dream. Stand-in is, as you do, you will feel the heat leave the thought. The face may still frown for a moment. The words may still be sharp, but the glue has dissolved. Without your consent, the picture cannot adhere. Often you will see an outward softening. Sometimes the relationship changes at once. Sometimes it drifts into peace without anyone able to say when. But in you, the traveler has stopped walking. Time drops out. Make your checklist simple. Is there a person in my problem? Is there a condition with a name that I am fearing or worshiping? Is there a law I am granting to matter, heredity, time? If so, unplug it. Announce nothing outwardly. Announce within. No person, no condition, no law, only God, only as, only is. And listen for the inner voice that says eternally, thou art my beloved Son. That is the end of personalization. That is the end of feeding a phantom with life, law, and time. Fruitage will show you you are right. Fear thins, blame melts, The air clears, the body reports peace. If not, check again. Did you slip a name, a memory, a label into your prayer? Drop it and stand where no one and nothing remains to oppose God. Do you see? Now we come to the root of delay, the hidden two-power belief, God plus something else, spirit and matter, God and disease, truth and a competing law. This is the core hypnotism. The carnal mind, which is but universal suggestion, whispers, yes, God is, but also, and in that but also, the stage is set for drama, distance, and time. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, not two, not God and one. Do you see? Two-power belief manufactures process. If disease is a power, then it must be battled, negotiated with, or outlasted. If lack is a law, then we must bend it with effort, bargain with it using prayers as currency, or wait it out like bad weather. In such a universe, time is enthroned. There must be minutes for the fight, days for the bargain, weeks for the storm to pass. But the kingdom does not run on clocks. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Single. The eye that sees one dissolves the need to fight. The light does not shove the dark away. It reveals there was no entity called darkness, only the absence of light. The arm of flesh is nothingness. The rope never had a snake to resist. The light showed it. Let me make this practical so you do not condemn yourself with metaphysics. When you feel fear rise, you are not sinful. You are simply entertaining a second power. That is all. Say it, name it, and drop it. Resist not evil does not mean submit to suffering. It means do not dignify suggestion as a second power to wrestle. Turn at once, not later, into the single fact. One presence, one power, one law, God appearing as individual being, is. I and my Father are one. Fear relaxes when it is no longer required to guard a phantom throne. Now hear the antidote in Scripture, and let it bathe the places that brace for a fight. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine, ever with. All that I have. No intervals, no rations, no competing distributors of good and evil. I and the Father are one. All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. If all is given to the one, what remains for a rival? If the Father and I are one, where is a second agency to require time for arbitration? Oneness displaces the need to fight because there is no other to fight. Do you follow that? A scene you know well. The test report arrives. The stomach drops. The mind starts its arithmetic. Treatments, timelines, outcomes. In that very first tremor, the old bargain is born. I will be very spiritual if this changes. That is the two-power belief, hiring you to travel. Stop, say nothing outwardly. Inwardly, return to as and is. Not God in a body. God is the only identity here. Not future good. Is. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Consent to it until the arithmetic loses its authority. Often the atmosphere shifts at once. The pressure leaves the room. The breath remembers itself. The household stops arguing. Fruitage begins where the second power ends. You can test yourself gently. The two-power belief betrays itself in little phrases. Yes, God is, but this is serious. I know truth. yet the law of heredity is strong. I prayed, still the pain. That but, that yet, that still are the voice of a second throne. Drop them. Replace them with the simplicity that leaves no opponent. One presence, one power, one law. God is, and I am, the transparency for that, not by assertion against the rival, but by recognition that no rival exists. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. If the mind heats up to make the point, be still. Let the inner word make itself known. Be still and know that I am God. Now understand why some healings seem long. What drags is not God's grace, but our reluctant surrender of the second power. Layer by layer, the mind releases its altars. Disease is a power, money is a law, time is a cause, and as each altar falls, time thins. It can feel gradual, but the reality never arrives in stages, is whole. Oneness is indivisible. The graduation is in our consent, not in God's activity. So keep your practice simple, direct, and faithful. Refuse the end. Live with a single eye. Hear daily, many times, for yourself and for those who call. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Then watch the clocks lose their terror and the ledger lose its ink. Fruitage will tell you you are right. And if the old, but also, whispers again, smile and turn once more to one, I will help you. Do you see? Now, here is the missing step, and it is so simple the mind will try to step over it, to do something grand. Do not do more, stand more. Not more statements, not more effort. Stand by in consciousness until the standpoint shifts from seeking to being. Abide in me, and I in you, for without me ye can do nothing. Abide is the word. Not travel, abide. Not reach, rest. You have primed the pump with a few true recognitions. Now let the water flow. Give up the movement that tries to get God to be God. Stand where God is, and consent. This standing is not passivity. It is alert beholding. I find it helps to say very little outwardly, often only, I will help you. Then within, I take no journey. God appearing as individual being here. God is now. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased, not to persuade, not to perform, but to agree with what eternally is. Then I am quiet. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. If a sentence rises, let it be brief and living, not a wall against fear. The work, if we can call it that, is in consenting without strain to as, and is until there is no traveler left in the room. Do you see? How will you know the shift has occurred? Not by fireworks, not by a feverish ecstasy. The sign is a quiet certainty, a settledness, a sense of presence that does not consult symptoms for authority. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, is the hallmark. You cannot explain it to reason, and you do not need to. The atmosphere lightens. The inner grip releases. The mind ceases its bargaining. It is as matter of fact as arithmetic. 2 times 2 is 4. You do not feel heroic about 4. You are simply at home in it. So, with realization, it is not a mood you manage. It is a state you recognize. Now, let us place instant in its right light. The instant is the moment of realization. Cause changes there, not later. Sometimes the form shows it immediately, and immediately his leprosy was cleansed. Sometimes the scripture reads, from that hour, as the effect unfolds without strain. But in both cases, the cause had already shifted. The light was switched on. If a shadow seems to linger in the corners, it is not the light negotiating with darkness. It is only your eye adjusting. Do not return to traveling for the sake of the corners. Abide. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Know is realization, not recital. Test yourself gently. Are you trying to get somewhere? Are you timing your prayer, measuring the body, auditioning sentences to find the powerful one? Then you are traveling. Stop, be still, and know that I am God. Not will be. I am. Return to the single fact. One presence, one power, one law. God appearing as the only identity here is. Whisper if needed, then lay down the words. Wait not for a sign, but in surrender. The waiting is not duration, it is consent. Sometimes it is a breath long, sometimes it is 3 breaths, but it is never labor. The traveler has no part in it. Make a simple discipline of this. Present yourself daily to silence. Prime the pump with a few living recognitions. God is, I and the Father are one. Son, thou art ever with me, and then listen. Do not invent. Let the inner word declare itself. At first you may notice only the ending of sentences. Then you will notice the presence those sentences tried to describe. There, the standpoint changes from I am seeking to I am being. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. That is the turn. When that note sounds, set down the tools. Go about your affairs without peeking at appearances for confirmation. Fruitage will speak. And if fruitage does not appear at once, do not reach for more words. Do not tug at the bud to make it bloom. Return simply and again to abiding. Each return is the same instant, because reality is not on a schedule. Practice until abiding becomes your native posture. Then you will find that what once seemed a long road now has no distance in it. Healing becomes immediate when consciousness stops traveling and begins abiding. I will help you. Do you see? Now let us make this very practical so that the standpoint becomes the way you live and not a flash of inspiration that fades. Set times of conscious knowing, not as superstition, not as bargaining, but as the gentle training of attention, so that pray without ceasing becomes natural. On waking before the foot touches the floor, be still one breath and know, God is, I and the Father are one. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Say it inwardly. Keep it tender. You are not announcing to the room. You are consenting within. This is the priming of the pump. Before meals, pause. Do not shatter a grace. Receive grace. A simple knowing. Life is. Supply is. Give us this day our daily bread. Then eat. At the threshold of any money decision, paying a bill, writing an invoice, considering work, be still one moment. Not arithmetic first. Recognition first. One source. One law. One activity. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Then proceed. Before sleep, lay down the traveler. Whisper if you must. Peace is. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep. For thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety, then rest. Do you see how simple? Not speeches, recognitions. Not effort, consent. Between these set moments, use the day's doorways as bells. When the phone rings, before you pick it up, God is here. When you enter a room, God is here. When a thought of someone arises, this is my beloved Son. Do not apply truth to persons and conditions. Behold, the one is all. 5 seconds will do often one. The purpose is not to get God to arrive. The purpose is to keep your eye single so that when appearances shout, you are already at home in is. Now hear the warning, for the mind is clever. Do not turn these pauses into a formula. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. If you find yourself counting, timing, checking boxes, stop. The schedule is a servant, not a lord. The recognitions are not magic phrases. They are the letter that readies the heart to hear the Spirit. Prime the pump, yes, but only until the water flows. When you feel the inner hush, the presence that needs no sentence, set down the words. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Stayed does not mean strained. It means rested in. You will know this practice is building the standpoint by the fruitage in your day. If fear loosens more quickly, if quarrels resolve with less speech, if decisions clarify without wrestling, if the body reports peace without your measuring it, then the standpoint is forming by your life experience, by the fruitage. If the opposite seems true, if agitation persists, if you find yourself auditioning sentences, if you are timing your peace, do not condemn yourself. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Simply adjust, shorten the words, widen the silence. Check the checklist, effort, words, personalization, 2 powers, and drop what crept in. Return to one, as and is. Make it a quiet rule. Nothing important without recognition first. Not superstition, order. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added. First does not require an hour. It requires a turning. Many days it will be a breath. Some days it will be 3 breaths. The measure is not minutes. The measure is awareness. If you are faithful in little recognitions, you will be faithful in much realization. In him we live and move and have our being. Practice is how you remember that when appearances try to make you forget. This is not a lazy man's work, but it is simple. Set your times. Keep your words few. Let the Spirit take the lead. Watch the fruitage. Adjust without blame. In this way you will discover that living from is easier than living from appearances, that rest outperforms strain, that the day organizes itself around peace when peace is recognized at its gates. I will help you. Do you see? Now maturity enters. At first, you declare truth. Later, truth declares itself within you. This is the pivot from the letter to the spirit. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. In the beginning, you speak a few living recognitions to steady the mind in as and is. That is right. But as the heart grows practiced in stillness, there comes a holy transfer. The initiative passes from your thought about God to God's knowing of himself as your awareness. Do you see? The ear grows more important than the tongue. The higher activity is receptivity. Receptivity is not passivity. It is alert communion. It is the watch at dawn, not the sleep at noon. Watch and pray. The listening ear is not waiting for a sign as a beggar waits at a gate. It is consenting to the presence already here and giving it room to declare itself. Be still and know that I am God. That knowing is not self-made. Flesh and blood hath not revealed it. The Father reveals. In practice, it feels like this. The inner movement quiets. The mental outlining ceases. And a word not manufactured begins to sound. Sometimes a scripture. Sometimes a simple yes. Sometimes only the weightless sense of I am. When that note sounds, obey it. Yield the floor. Let Elijah tutor you. The wind, the earthquake, the fire, these are the mind's activities, loud and impressive. But the Lord was not in them. And after the fire, a still small voice. That is the ministry. When you live for the still small voice, the need to persuade, to time, to measure, drops out. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Notice, the sheep hear and follow. They do not negotiate. They do not perform. Hearing is the act. Following is the fruitage. Here is the safeguard so you do not drift into passivity. Receptivity waits without anxiety and stands without strain. If you find yourself drowsing into nothing or tensing to force silence, recalibrate. A single inward recognition, one presence, one power, one law, God is, I and the Father are one, then back to listening. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. Use just enough letter to lay the head on the bosom of spirit. Then rest your ear there. The measure of true receptivity is freshness. The word that rises is not stale quotation to mask fear. It is alive, authoritative, often brief. Peace be still. Fear not, for I am with thee. Or simply, this is my beloved Son. You will know it by the way the atmosphere yields. Why does this end delay? Because when source is spirit, you are no longer manufacturing a result. You are witnessing what is. You are not presenting a case and waiting for a verdict. You are letting the judge speak his own law as consciousness. In that instant, the traveler who walks from here to there disappears. The need to time dissolves with him. Sometimes the outer sign is immediate. Sometimes the gospel's phrase from that hour will best describe it. In either case, the cause has moved in the timeless. The clock is only reporting the surrender of the old standpoint. Let me give you a scene for your courage. A man called at midnight, breath ragged with fear. The learned move was to marshal statements, to brace him with eloquence. I said, I will help you. Then I listened. Nothing dramatic, only a hush, and then a word not mine. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. It did not come as a hope. It came as is. In that recognition, the air changed. His breathing softened. He said, something let go, fruitage, not the strength of my vocabulary, Christ, declaring truth within consciousness. Train for this. Present yourself in silence daily without an outline. Prime the pump lightly, then listen. If nothing is heard, do not invent. Wait, not as if time could deliver God, but as one who knows God is and gives room to be heard. Minutes are not the point. Consent is. Often you will leave the chair with no sentence to quote, only the quiet certainty that accompanies presence. Go about your affairs. Watch the fruitage. If agitation returns, return to the chair, short words, wide silence, listening. Over time, you will find that the letter has done its faithful work. It has thinned the noise so that spirit may speak. Then the deepest healings will occur because the human mind has become still enough to let the Christ declare the truth. I will help you. Do you see? Now let us be honest enough to test ourselves, not by mood, not by eloquence, but by fruitage. Ye shall know them by their fruits. The Master did not say by their phrases, or by their feelings, by your life experience, by the fruitage. What does that look like? Problems are more quickly and easily solved. The atmosphere of fear thins and does not claim the whole room. Supply normalizes without arithmetic wrestling. Relationships soften where they were brittle. Guidance clarifies without your forcing it. The body reports peace without your peaking every hour. You will notice a readiness. Answers come sooner. Quarrels diffuse with fewer words. The day orders itself around an inner stillness. Sometimes the sign is immediate. Sometimes, as the Gospels say, from that hour. In either case, something real has moved, and it was not your vocabulary. It was the standpoint. Understand this, because it will save you many detours. Fruitage is demonstration, not language. Realization, not emotion. An emotional jag can feel like revelation. A beautiful sentence can feel like presence. Test it kindly. Has fear lessened? Has the compulsion to time the outcome eased? Has a way opened where the mind saw none? If yes, proceed in quiet gratitude. If not, do not accuse yourself. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Simply admit you may be resting in words without realization, in mood without spirit. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God. Try them by fruitage. How do you adjust? Rerun the checklist with candor and do it gently, like a physician who knows the remedy is simple. First, effort. Are you straining? Strain is a confession of absence. Drop it. Realization is recognition of presence. Be still. Second words. Are you piling sentences to feel safe? Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. Use a few living recognitions, then listen. Third, personalization. Did you sneak in my pain, his fault, their system? Each pronoun is glue. Give not a thought to person or condition. Drop it. Judge righteous judgment. Fourth, the two-power belief. Do you hear a but also? God and disease, God and time, God and heredity. Refuse the second throne. One presence, one power, one law. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Do you follow that? Then return to as and is. Sit down, even for 1 minute. No journey, no bargaining. God appearing as individual being here is whisper if needed. I and the Father are one. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Be still and know that I am God. Then hush and let the still small voice declare itself. You are not creating harmony. You are consenting to what is. Often you will feel the traveler disappear. The inner movement to get somewhere ceases. That is the instant. From there, watch for fruitage. It may register as a relaxation in the room, as a willingness to forgive, as a phone call arriving at the right moment, as a body letting go of a grip. The clock only reports the surrender of the old standpoint. It never measures God. Keep your speech simple. I will help you. Keep your practice steady. Short words, wide silence, frequent turnings. Keep your consciousness lifted, many little recognitions, much listening. This is not a lazy man's work, but it is gentle work. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. You are not driving a result. You are abiding in one. When the standpoint shifts, life reflects it. If it is not yet reflected, adjust without blame, and stand again, whereas and is are the only terms. In this way, your days will tell the truth of your prayers. By your life experience, by the fruitage, I will help you. Do you see? Thank you.